Chag Sameach, everyone. It is good to be together. Thank you for those who came out last night and did some learning with us. It was a wonderful opportunity to come and learn some Torah. We had a fascinating, insightful conversation. And it's an incredible tradition, this Tikkun Leil Shavuot. There's a lot of different opinions about where it comes from, but one place that we know that we can point to is 400 years ago, in the mystical city of Tzfat, Rabbi Isaiah Horowitz, who has the unfortunate title of being known as the Shlach, which is the Shnei Luchot Habrit, which is beautiful, but the Shlach, not as much. And Rabbi Joseph Caro, who's the Machaber, much better, who wrote the Shulchan Aruch, who penned the Shulchan Aruch. These two incredible Gedolim, these two great rabbis, got together on Erev Shavuot in the mystical city of Tzfat, and they decided to learn Torah together. And they sat down and they studied some incredibly important pasuchim, some different important lines from the Torah together. And then after they finished and after they concluded with that part of their learning, they decided to pick up the Mishnah and to start going through the Mishnah. And deep into the night, they made it through two Masechtot, two entire tractates of the Mishnah. And when they did, we can imagine that this was probably 3-4 o'clock in the morning. According to Rabbi Horowitz, according to the Shlach, the Shnei Luchot Habrit, in his magnum opus, the Mishnah spoke back. Maybe sleep deprivation, maybe whatever it might be, but according to Rabbi Horowitz, the Mishnah spoke back. That is Torah, the holiness of Torah, the divine. God spoke back. And the message delivered to these two scholars was one of thanks. Hashem thanked these students of Torah for returning the Keter Torah, the crown of Torah, back onto God's head, because for too long it had been removed, lying at God's feet, waiting for tikkun, a sacred problem in dire need of a sacred solution. And this was 400 years ago. And for 400 years since, rabbis, lay leaders, Torah scholars have been writing up and creating thousands of different drashes and interpretations about why Dafka on Shavuot we engage in this marathon of Torah learning. And you know some of these drashes, right? That one of them, probably the most famous one, is that our ancestors fell asleep when they were asked to stay up to receive the Torah at Sinai. And that God, that's one of these big ones, right? So we do a tikkun, we make up for their sin by staying up all night and learning Torah. Another one is God brought about creation starting in the evening and through to the next day. So therefore we start our learning in the evening and continue Torah learning until the next day. There's a plethora of different examinations about why we do this. And, not a super big shocker here, but I love all of them. I think they're amazing, and I think they're beautiful, and I think they're all true in their own regard. And for many of them, the message, the takeaway is actually the same. The story's a little bit different, the rationale's a little bit different, but the takeaway, the actual piece of treasure that we're taking out of it is the same. And that makes these different interpretations even more beautiful and even more magical, because ultimately, at the end of the day, they are about tikkun. Tikkun. Repair. Healing. Fixing. And there's something very important to that concept as it relates to Shavuot that I want us to talk about this morning, just for a brief bit, because I think it's special and uniquely Jewish. And I think it's important for us to celebrate it for what it is. I've spoken a lot on Shabbat mornings and other learning opportunities about the importance of action in Judaism. And I've often used a quote from the great Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, which is a beautiful, beautiful quote. We have it on the wall in our religious school wing that says, a Jew is rather than asked to take a leap of faith, a Jew is asked to take a leap of action. Which is a beautiful concept, right? It's kind of this naseh v'nishma. Before we even hear, before we even understand, we are asked to do. And that idea of Torah is true. It's beautiful, but it's also not the whole story. Because the action that we talk about in Judaism is not just works, not just getting out and doing mitzvot, it's also the action of learning, which we might not think about as an action because in so much of what we receive in the Western world, that's such a passive thing, to sit and to learn. In many other faith traditions, instruction, wisdom, insight is given, and the members of the faith receive it and do with it what they will. But in Judaism, learning, limud, the study of Torah, is not passive at all. And it is certainly not one-sided. In fact, in Judaism, we have this amazing Aramaic phrase for our learning, which is shaktavitaria. Do you have any Aramaic speakers who can translate that? Shaktavitaria. It's back and forth. That is limud Torah. Shaktavitaria. We often, when we're learning Torah together, I say that our Torah learning should sound like a yeshiva. Not like a library, but like a yeshiva. If you go to a library, if you speak a little too loudly, shh, you keep it down. In a yeshiva, you can't hear yourself think it's so loud in there because everyone's talking over one another, and that is the beauty of the kol ram, this great booming idea of shakta vitaria, that learning, that Torah is meant to be wrestled with. It's so important that we shout about it, that we fight about it, that we wrestle with each other to figure out exactly what it is and what it means. All for the sake of building something stronger, better, and holier. All of it is for the sake of putting the keter, putting the crown back on God's head. And when we do that right, it is a humbling experience. We understand in this completely paradoxical way, if we do this right, how small we are, right? How small and insignificant in the grand scheme of things. We understand how small we are. And at the same time, embracing the paradox, we understand that we are contributors, invaluable contributors at that to the grand scheme of life and existence. Because, and this is the most important thing I'm going to say this morning, so if you hear anything, make it this. Because in our tradition, we don't have to be Rabbi Horowitz or Rabbi Caro. We don't have to be the Shlach or the Mechaber, two of the greatest rabbis of all time, to bring about the divine. Because according to our text and our tradition, the divine presence rests whenever words of Torah are shared between anyone. Anyone. The greatest Gedolim of all time, that is where the divine presence rests. Two people who have never studied Torah before but sit down and learn Torah together, that is where the divine presence rests. That is the magic of Tikkun. That is the matan, that is the gift of matan Torah. That it isn't exclusive, that it isn't for the elite, it is for you, for me, for us, for all of us. 400 years ago, two Gedolim of our tradition, two great and influential rabbis stayed up in Sfat and studied Torah. 400 years later, we get to do the same thing. Not just last night, not just this morning, but every single day we get the gift to meditate on the greatest gift of human history. And we get to be part of it. We get to own it. All of it. Every last one of us. And that in and of itself is a tikkun. But it's the potential of it all that is nothing short of extraordinary. My prayer for all of us on this Shavuos morning is that we recognize that potential, that we believe in it, and that we take this great gift for what it is so that we can still our bodies, but move our heads and our hearts. Because today, we are given Torah. Every last one of us. Today, we are invited to wrestle with it and make it our own. And with this gift, and this is not hyperbolic, I promise, you, me, all of us can change the world. That is the gift of Torah. Chag Sameach.